abandoned in a foreign land. Discover the amazing transformation that occurred just 30 days later. Samantha's heart raced as she watched her dreams wither against the backdrop of Paris, a city that had once inspired her. Just a few weeks ago, she was preparing to launch a groundbreaking project from her New York firm. Now, caught in a tidal wave of despair, she found herself alone in a foreign land, her architectural ambitions wilting like autumn leaves. The bustling streets of Montmartre felt foreign and isolating, each passerby a reminder of her loneliness. Abandoned, it stung like the crisp air of the fall. Her career had always been a beacon of hope. The pride she felt when her family boasted of her accomplishments filled her with purpose. Now it felt like a heavy cloak dragging her beneath the surface of her own expectations. She could almost hear their voices. "Samantha, you were meant to make us proud." But what did that mean now, in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower? The financial burden was insurmountable, and every moment spent sketching felt pointless as anxiety consumed her from within. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. The isolation was palpable, each day bleeding into the next. With every repressed sigh, she explored the cobblestone streets, a stranger in her own skin. The locals smiled and waved, yet she felt invisible. What if she was never meant to succeed? Clenching her sketchbook, an overwhelming need for validation pressed against her. After all, what if her designs, her very essence, fell flat? Uncertainty gripped her, twisting her stomach in knots. Amidst the swirling doubts, a hovering plea for connection invaded her thoughts. How could she chase her dream while feeling so detached from her family? Wasn't success measured by the love of her loved ones? Each moment she spent working on her projects drifted further away from the ideals she had internalized. The oscillation of her dream versus the haunting weight of familial expectations left her gasping for air. She gathered her materials, hesitating to draw the first line on paper. Just when a hint of clarity began to emerge, dark clouds rolled in. On a gloomy Tuesday afternoon, while slouching in a cafe, shadows crept back into her mind. The murmurs of doubt gained volume, drowning her resolve. What if she failed? What if her installation, a thrilling entwining of her roots and the city's pulse, turned into another reminder of what she lost? With just days left before the unveiling, the pressure mounted. Red hot, suffocating. Samantha pressed her palms against the table as her heart twisted with despair. Could anyone see beyond her facade? Could she even bear to speak the words of her vision? Every second loomed heavy, gnawing at her determination to step forward. As she prepared to face the unveiling, self-doubt flooded her mind, leaving her paralyzed. Each passing moment moved her closer to an excruciating choice. Would she risk condemnation for her authentic creation, or mold herself into a version her family might cherish? The air wrapped around her throat like a vice. As she lifted her gaze, reality reared its head. Would she be able to embrace this seemingly impossible choice, or would she remain trapped in the very place she longed to escape? The moment hung there, raw and fragile, as her heart tightened in hesitation. Would she finally step into the life she had craved, or would the weight of her fears drag her back to the safety of conformity? Samantha's thoughts tumbled like autumn leaves in the Parisian breeze, swirling in disarray as she sat in her favorite cafe, the rich scent of coffee attempting to pierce her murky cloud of doubt. The walls around her felt like they were closing in, a physical manifestation of her internal chaos. Her hands trembled slightly as she fidgeted with her sketchbook, the cover scuffed and worn. Here lay her aspirations, each page a silent witness to her struggles. Taking a deep breath, she looked out at the bustling street, where life moved with effortless fluidity. People laughed, conversed, and strolled, completely oblivious to her turmoil. No one knew she was teetering on a precipice of decision, about to plunge into the unknown. What if she finally embraced her ideas, poured herself into that installation, and revealed her true self, a self she feared might not be enough? The fabric of her very being screamed for release. It was as if her dreams were locked inside a glass cage, shining under the soft glow of daylight but utterly unreachable. Each stroke of her pencil could unlock a door or reinforce the bars. The starkness of reality forced her to confront an unsettling truth. She had kept her authenticity muted, fearing it would not resonate with her family or critics. In the quiet of her solitude, Samantha began to query if her designs had transformed into mere reflections of expectation, rather than expressions of her soul. Reeling from this epiphany, she flipped through her sketches, eyes darting over cascading lines and unfinished ideas. Why had she forsaken her vision? Perhaps in the cacophony of her need for validation, she had lost her voice. It was a harsh realization. Should she chase the applause of others or dig deeper, embracing the beauty of vulnerability instead? The scratching of a pen against paper ignited a fire within. Gone was the perfect facade, traded for raw, unabashed authenticity. With each passing moment, her determination bubbled to the surface, ready to replace the self-doubt that had shackled her progress. She envisioned the installation not as a solitary experience, but as a yearning for human connection, a bridge between her past and her new life in Paris. What better way to transform despair than into a concrete, living testament of her journey? No longer would she mold her vision to fit preconceived notions. Instead, she would lay bare her experiences, entwining the essence of her heritage with the vibrant life around her. This realization surged through her veins, invigorating her spirit. Determination coursed within as she made a promise to herself. She would craft an exhibition that spoke not just of her architectural prowess but of her struggle, her resilience, and ultimately her transformation. Just as the sun cast warm hues upon the cobblestones outside, illuminating the path ahead, a new clarity emerged. It wasn't merely about producing good work. It was about producing work that felt true to her. As the afternoon waned, she packed up her sketches, the weight of the past beginning to lift. Yet, just as hope flickered into focus, an unsettling thought crept in. Would her family accept this new version of her as Samantha unchained, stripped of societal expectations? A knot formed in her stomach, a reminder that facing herself meant possibly facing rejection. That night, as she lay in bed, thoughts raced alongside the flickering shadows on her wall. Would she unveil not just her work but her very heart? The time had come to confront her deepest fears and desires, knowing that the choice to remain true to herself could lead to either liberation or despair. With dawn approaching, she resolved that the next day would mark the start of her new chapter, a leap into the exhilarating unknown. But as the sun began to rise, casting light upon her next steps, an alarming realization struck. The moment of truth was closer than she had anticipated, and she had to decide if she was ready to forge ahead, and whether she could bear the consequences. Would she embrace her authenticity despite the risk of judgment, or would fear pull her under just as she began to rise? The Parisian dawn spilled through her window, warm and golden, but Samantha felt a chill clench her stomach. Today, she would make her first steps toward unveiling herself to a world that had spent too long in shadows. The decision felt monumental, a line drawn in the sand that divided the past from a potential future. Her heart raced as she dressed, a convoluted mix of anticipation and dread churning within her. To the cafe, she ordered her usual coffee, but the taste was different today, bittersweet, mirroring her emotions. She pulled out her sketchbook, each page whispering promises of what could be. The installation concept danced in her head, alive with potential yet fraught with peril. For every vibrant color she envisioned, a shadow of doubt lingered. Would she be brave enough to stand behind her work, to accept whatever judgment may come? As she sketched, the lines transformed from mere shapes into representations of her inner landscape. She delved deeper, allowing her thoughts to flow onto the page like ink merging with water. Each flick of her wrist was a declaration, an act of reclamation. But just as inspiration struck, a nagging question nagged at her conscience. Who would be her first audience? Confronting her family loomed like an impending storm. They had always regarded her architectural pursuits with pride, but how would they react to this new, vulnerable version of herself? The notion left her feeling exposed and raw. Closing her eyes, she pictured her mother's steady gaze and her father's reassuring smile. Would there be acceptance or disappointment? Pushing through the discomfort, she pulled out her phone, fingers hovering above the screen as she contemplated a text. "Mom, I have something important to share." She hesitated. Should she invite them to see the installation before it was finished, or let them witness the completed project? The choice felt heavy like a boulder pinned against her chest. With a deep, fortifying breath, she committed to sending the message, unintentionally tightening the knot in her stomach as she hit send. Relief was fleeting, replaced by the buzz of anxiety. What came next hinged upon their reaction. She had decided on honesty, an audacious leap into vulnerability, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of it being an impulsive decision. Later that day, she wandered through the streets of Paris, seeking inspiration. As she moved through the twisting alleys, the vibrant cafes and artist boutiques drew her in with their alluring charm. Her surroundings began to fill the blank spaces left in her sketches, fueling her creative energy. Each step led her closer to understanding that this city, with its layers and textures, mirrored her own life, beautiful yet fraught with complexities. In a hidden square, she discovered a small gallery showcasing emerging artists. The rawness of the pieces struck her, their imperfections enchanting, evoking emotions that felt achingly familiar. As she stepped inside, the atmosphere buzzed with a sense of community, artists sharing their struggles, triumphs, and dreams. A flicker of hope ignited. If they could share their truths, why couldn't she? Engagement with the art awakened something deep within her, a burgeoning determination. Her heart raced as she considered reconnecting her own dreams with this newfound courage. The idea of transformation pulsed through her veins. Returning to her apartment, she opened her sketchbook again. Inspired by the atmosphere she had just encountered, this would be her method of confronting herself. A chance to tether her vulnerability to her work. She began to draft ideas for interactive elements that would invite audiences to not only view but feel. Samantha had one foot in the world of her exploration and another in the realms of her hesitations. As she penned her thoughts with fervor, the shadows of doubt began to shrink. Even as the fear of judgment loomed larger, a realization crystallized. She had the power to decide how much of herself she was willing to give away. But she couldn't shake the most pressing fear. The moment of revealing her heart was still looming. Would the world embrace this new version of her? She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath as she acknowledged that the real leap was yet to come. Tomorrow would demand bravery unlike any she had faced before. An awareness that transformation would not happen seamlessly without confronting the very people she feared the most. The weight of this truth pressed down upon her chest, leaving her breathless. It wasn't just about unveiling an artwork. It was about unveiling herself. The stage was set, and the spotlight cast everything into stark relief. Would she step into that light, or retreat back into shadows? The question trailed behind her like a ghost, whispering for clarity in the depths of her heart. The morning light felt sharper and more pronounced, cutting through Samantha's apartment like a sword as she rubbed her eyes awake. A sense of urgency tugged at her as she fully registered the day that lay ahead. Today was not merely another morning. It was the day she had chosen to confer her truth to her family. Anxiety and anticipation wrestled within her, the echoes of yesterday's inspirations colliding with the realities of her situation. She struggled to organize her scattered thoughts as the clock ticked relentlessly. With steely determination, Samantha prepared herself. Today, she could not simply be the architect trained to design spaces. No, she was becoming something richer, a curator of her own experience, a promoter of vulnerability woven through art. As she settled at her kitchen table, revisiting her sketches for the final time, the interactive elements beckoned her with a fierce allure. Each curve and color called out, promising liberation. Yet beneath that exhilaration lay uncertainty. Was she enough? Would her hands be steady enough to convey her truth? Those early doubts nipped at her like ice-cold water, making her heart race with fear. But a flame of conviction ignited when she plucked her phone from the table and scrolled through her messages. The notification was waiting. "Mom, I have something important to share." The text still loomed large in her mind, like a dark cloud refusing to disperse. She forced herself to breathe, to counter the anxiety surging through her veins. Perhaps this fear was not an enemy but a guide and provocation to seek deeper into the dimensions of herself. A thought emerged. What if she engaged this rawness in her emerging artwork? What if she invited her family to witness not just her installation, but the vulnerability that accompanied it? She dressed deliberately, choosing a flowy shirt that felt both comfortable and empowering. Mirrors stopped her in their reflections, a stranger staring back, yet familiar enough. Samantha tapped into her resolve, envisioning herself not merely as an artist, but as an architect in control of her narrative. Each step was a reminder of her intention, the ground beneath her feet solid beneath apprehension. Arriving at her family's apartment felt overwhelmingly significant. The familiar surroundings held a density that reminded her of years spent crafting her identity. She took a deep breath, grounding herself as she recalled the voices of the art gallery crowd, buoying her spirits. Standing before their door, she summoned the courage she had discovered over the last few weeks, the courage to be imperfectly human. The door swung open, and there they were. Her mother's warm smile and her father's watchful gaze met her with a blend of love and curiosity. For a moment the world felt still, pregnant with the weight of unspoken words. "Sammy, we've been waiting for you," her mother chirped, ushering her inside. The sounds of familiar chatter mingled with the clinking of dinnerware. Yet for Samantha, the noise faded into the background. Her thoughts centered on what lay within her, a culmination of feelings, artistry, and truth. With the family gathered around the table, the conversation flowed, punctuated by laughter and shared memories. Yet the urge to reveal her work coiled tightly in her chest. Could she intertwine her past with the present? Was it time to pull the thread of emotion woven into her heart and present it to them? As a lull in the discussion enveloped the room, she felt the universe pressing upon her, daring her to let it out. "I have something important to tell you," she began hesitantly, her voice quavering but resolute. "It's about my art and about who I've been while creating it." She took the plunge, sharing the inspirations behind the sketches, the interactive elements, and most crucially what her art represented about her journey of self-acceptance. As she spoke, the room filled with an intensity, her family's murmurs fading into the rhythmic pulse of her heartbeat. The dichotomy of hope and vulnerability coursed through her as she reached the climax of her revelation. The silence that followed was electric, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Would they celebrate her? Or would indifference drown her words? She dared to look up, her eyes searching for their faces. Would love triumph over apprehension? The tension enveloped her, the moment suspended in time as she awaited her family's response. Each heartbeat was a question. Would this be the acceptance she craved, or would it shatter her fragile resolve? Outside, the Parisian street hummed and bustled, oblivious to the reckoning unfolding within. She was on the cusp of an extraordinary transformation, uncertain but emboldened, as her family's reactions danced just beyond her reach. The air thick with possibility, a new chapter lay ahead, whether or not she dared to turn the page. Would she emerge stronger? Or would this encounter threaten to unravel all she had built? A moment stretched into an eternity before the air cracked with layers of emotion surging forth like tides. Her father, eyes narrowing in contemplation, shifted in his chair. Her mother's smile faltered, revealing uncertainty where there had once been warmth. Samantha's heart thumped, a rapid drum of anticipation and fear. Was it naive to expect immediate acceptance? Then her father's voice broke the silence, steady but laced with concern. "You've always had a flair for your work, but why now? Why this?" His question hung in the air, a tether of doubt that anchored her feet in uncertainty. Samantha felt the weight of his inquiry, pricking her like thorns. She had wrestled with this answer for weeks, yet now it felt more elusive than before. It's about being real," she said, hesitating as the words clawed their way up. "It's about showing vulnerability. I want you to see how art connects to who I am. How it's not just a product, but part of my journey." "So you're saying all of this is about your identity?" Her mother interjected, trying to grasp the thread that connected Samantha to her art, a lifeline she could hold on to. "Are you okay? Are we supposed to understand what you've been struggling with?" The probing look in their eyes forced a surge of clarity within her. Each beat of her heart urged her to delve deeper, to navigate the perilous folds of her truth. "Mom, Dad, I've been learning to accept myself, including the imperfections," she expressed, her own voice trembling as she sought sincerity through the storm. "Art has helped me process everything, my dreams, fears, and doubts." With every word, Samantha untangled a piece of herself, revealing tender parts laid voyeuristic before them. She tapped into the recent nights spent poring over sketches, working through lingering self-doubt. "I want you to witness this part of my life, where the past isn't shrouded but embraced, where fear coexists with creative expression. As her family mulled over her revelations, Samantha's chest tightened with a mixture of hope and despair. Would they embrace this integral aspect of her humanity? The ambient chatter of their home grew muted as she steeled herself against potential rejection. The familiar imperfections of her upbringing towered around her, frayed expectations and unspoken judgments threading their way deep into her core. Just then, her mother leaned forward, eyes brightening with an unfamiliar light. "You need to know how proud I am of your bravery, Sammy. Pursuing truth in art is courageous. And we'll be here learning with you." But there it was again, the hesitant caution coloring her voice. "Are you prepared for the world outside this room? It can be harsh." Samantha's confidence wavered at this reminder of the reality beyond familial support. What if her art didn't just reflect her vulnerability, but exposed her to misunderstanding and judgment? Would that toll extract more than she was willing to pay? Yet that inner spark of conviction ignited a quiet resolve. "I want to be ready, not just as an artist but as someone who owns her truth, messy as it is." She straightened her back, an invisible weight shifting off her shoulders. "Art can empower me, and if it helps others too, then that's even more fulfilling." The atmosphere shifted slightly, and for the first time, she detected a glimmer of understanding in her father's gaze. An unspoken agreement hung palpable between them, a bridge slowly being built of mutual respect, acceptance, and love. Days turned to weeks and eventually, Samantha became fiercely invested in the unfolding of her growth. Allocating time deliberately to explore her notions of identity, she forged a new path, delving into her sketches, capturing her evolving essence. Through her art, she slowly began to transform fear into something more constructive. Yet within the embrace of creativity, shadows still lurked, unanswered questions clawing at her heart. What would it take to make her vulnerabilities resonate with those beyond her family? Would her art hold the power it promised, or would it fracture her resolve? With resolve surging, she envisioned her first major exhibition, a bold unveiling of her metamorphosis. The thought thrilled her but also sent ripples of trepidation through her. Could she transcend the fears echoing in her mind? The urgency of her journey propelled her onward, a resolute artist navigating the tapestry of her truth, every brush stroke a testament. Just as she found herself buoyed by her preparation, an unexpected message pinged on her phone, shattering the moment she had been crafting. "You won't believe who just contacted me about your art." Her heart plummeted. What awaited her on the other side of this news? Was it an affirmation of her growth or a challenge to her very foundation? Samantha's breath caught, her heart hammering as she stared at the screen. The familiar name appeared like an ominous specter. Jenna Cortez, the well-known art critic known for her keen eye and often scathing reviews. Memories of her college days bubbled to the surface. Jenna's critiques sharp and piercing, dissecting the essence of her peers' work and leaving trembling students in their wake. What did she want? The message felt like a gateway to possibility, yet it threatened to plunge her into self-doubt. Could she handle a critique from someone whose opinion carried so much weight? The pulsating anticipation danced with the specter of fear. Deep breaths. Samantha set her phone down but found herself staring at the blank canvas in front of her. Each inch beckoned, a challenge to rise beyond the limitations she was constructing in her mind. The threat of judgment loomed like dark clouds overhead. She could either let them dampen her spirit or use them to fuel the flames of her creativity. With resolve mingling with trepidation, she crafted a response, each keystroke deliberate as she invited Jenna for a preview of her work. The choice felt monumental, her first step into the vulnerable realm of exposure. It wasn't just art she was unveiling. It was a piece of herself, raw and unedited. Days passed in a blur of frantic creativity. Each brushstroke became an exploration of her fears, her doubts, and her burgeoning sense of identity. Familiar themes surfaced: emotional landscapes, fractured fragments of memories, elements representing both connection and isolation. As she painted, she processed her inner battle, transforming fear into a vibrant tapestry of color. The moment Jenna would step into the gallery hung palpably in her mind, a pendulum of excitement and dread. In between her bursts of inspiration, she found herself confiding in her close friends, some of whom she had long neglected in the whirlwind of her artistic rhythm. "You'll be okay," they reassured her. But their words floated in and out of her consciousness, as insubstantial as air. With every word of comfort, she heard whispers of doubt, echoes of past insecurities festering in the corners of her mind. The night before the preview, Samantha stood before her completed pieces, illuminated under the soft light of her studio. Each artwork felt like an extension of her soul, a reflection of her journey of self-acceptance. Yet, the moment was eclipsed by a rising swell of anxiety. What if Jenna saw sophistication in her struggle, a litany of failure strung neatly across canvas? What if her work wasn't understood at all? Laying awake, she contemplated the nature of her vulnerability. Did it inherently make her weaker? Or was it instead a quiet strength, the ability to show her truth? She wasn't just revealing her art. She was showing them the woman she was becoming, imperfectly and beautifully. As dawn broke, she resolved fear would no longer tether her on the day of the preview. Everything fell into place. Friends arrived, eyes lit with encouragement, while the air buzzed with anxious anticipation. As Jenna entered the gallery, time seemed to elongate. Her presence was magnetic, her reputation preceding her. Samantha held her breath, the world dimming around her as Jenna moved through the exhibition, a sharp intensity in her gaze. Each painting drew Jenna closer, her expressions revealing snippets of intrigue. The moment stretched infinitely, apprehension swelling as she braced herself for feedback that felt as heavy as the paintings behind her. Just when the anxiety peaked, Jenna paused in front of Samantha's favorite piece, the one that captured her essence. Seconds turned to minutes, and Samantha felt as though she was teetering on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the inevitable plunge. What revelation awaited her? The air was thick with expectation, every heartbeat echoing a silent prayer for affirmation. And then Jenna turned and locked eyes with Samantha, a flicker of understanding flashing like lightning. "Let us talk about this piece," Jenna said, her tone unfathomable, "because I think we may both just have something to learn." Now Samantha faced her greatest test yet. Would she have the courage to confront her fears head-on and engage with the woman who held her future in her hands? Samantha felt the weight of Jenna's gaze, a blend of curiosity and challenge, igniting both hope and apprehension within her. The critic's words resonated in the air, tinged with the promise of an exchange that could alter the trajectory of her career. Slowly she exhaled, realizing this moment was a powerful crossroads. With the gallery buzzing in the periphery, she took a tentative step forward, her heart racing with each measured movement. Engaging with Jenna was more than a conversation. It was a confrontation with her own insecurities. What if Jenna perceived her art as derivative or uninspired? Struggling to silence her inner critic, she steadied her breath and raised her chin defiantly. It was time to show up not just for her work, but for herself. "What do you see?" Samantha asked, her voice steady though her mind raced. Was the question too bold? Did it expose her vulnerability more than she intended? Jenna tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "I see a conflict," she replied, gesturing towards the colors swirling together in a chaotic dance on the canvas. A battle between chaos and order, beauty and despair. Samantha absorbed the feedback. Jenna's interpretation was unexpected and layered with nuance. As the critic continued, elaborating on how the tumultuous brushstrokes suggested an emotional reckoning, Samantha felt a flicker of recognition. This was not just criticism, it was an exploration of her internal world laid bare. What Jenna outlined was an incredible testament to the complexity of human experiences, something Samantha had always been hesitant to embrace. The notion that chaos could translate into beauty infused her with a hesitant confidence. Jenna wasn't dissecting her. She was illuminating her work, vowing to engage with the emotions behind every stroke. As the conversation deepened, Samantha found her voice, articulating the myriad inspirations and emotions behind each piece. The words flowed with her nervous energy, gradually morphing into passion as she detailed her struggles, explorations, and the emotional truths inscribed within her art. Each revelation served not only as an unveiling of her work but as a declaration of her personal evolution. Jenna listened intently, an occasional flicker of understanding painting her features. In that moment, it became clear that they were not so different. The critic's discerning eye seeking authenticity mirrored Samantha's desire for validation and connection through her labor. The discourse transformed. It morphed into a shared space forged in vulnerability and courage. "What do you hope viewers take away from this?" Jenna finally asked, prompting Samantha to reflect inwardly. In her hesitation, A profound realization struck Samantha, a revelation so clear it felt almost abrupt. I wish for them to feel seen, that they could understand the chaos of their own truths, and embrace the beauty of their individuality. Samantha watched as Jenna nodded thoughtfully, her eyes narrowing slightly, a sign of consideration. Had Jenna been confronted with that same fear of exposure? The possibility ignited something within Samantha, a desire to understand the paths that led them both here, winding through self-doubt to a resilient determination. After the overview of her collection concluded, Jenna spoke again, her tone shifting. You have something worth exploring, Samantha. But this is just the beginning. The gravity of those words loomed large. Did she mean more exhibitions? Mentorship? Or was it deeper, something profound that beckoned? As Jenna's expression softened, a smile cracked through the seriousness of their discussion. Take a risk. Push yourself further than you thought possible. In that moment, Samantha realized the critic wasn't simply an obstacle. She was an ally igniting a new trajectory in life and art. With every tangible acknowledgement of Samantha's struggles and aspirations, a sense of accountability rose within her as they parted ways. Samantha's mind whirled. Jenna's insights stirred ambition within her, igniting the next stage of her evolution. What daring ventures lie ahead? What personal sacrifices might she encounter on this journey? And with that thought, a familiar flutter of anxiety mixed with excitement surged back. The path before her shimmered with the possibility of the unknown, each step a leap into deeper waters. What will I discover about myself in this process? Samantha mused, anticipation shadowing her thoughts. The choice felt monumental. The moment of truth arrived, but before she could grasp it fully, another call from Jenna redirected her focus. Samantha, I'd like you to think about collaborating on a project, Jenna stated, her tone candid yet wrapped in unspoken challenge. What lies at the intersection of her artistic identity and this new alliance with Jenna? The uncertainties of the future beckoned. Could she redefine what it meant to create and connect? Samantha could hardly sleep that night, the echo of Jenna's proposition coursing through her mind like a relentless wave. The idea of collaboration both thrilled and terrified her. What was she getting herself into? In her gut, a knot formed, intertwining fear and excitement. What if this opportunity unraveled her insecurities instead of propelling her forward? The morning light filtered through her studio window, illuminating stacks of unfinished canvases that seemed to represent her lack of focus. She felt like a jigsaw puzzle missing key pieces. For too long, she had shyly avoided risking her voice, fearing the scrutiny of both audiences and critics. But Jenna's encouragement loomed large, stirring a powerful urge to confront those vulnerable shadows. Dressed in a reassuring shade of deep blue, her comfort color, Samantha settled into her studio, ready to explore the unknown. She began sketching outlines for the project that floated in the ether of possibility. The collaborative spirit brewed creative ideas, an intoxicating mix that inspired her to think expansively. There would be risks, certainly. The project would demand more than she initially anticipated. Yet, in that moment, she became acutely aware of her own resilience. Each stroke of her brush on the canvas became less about fear and more about expression. The weight of expectation transformed into an electric energy as she began to draft concepts for the collaboration. What if she infused her work with elements that spoke to Jenna's insights, juxtaposing chaos with calculated lines? Instead of creating in isolation, what if she opened her heart and mind to the ideas of another artist? The thought mesmerized her. Yet, doubt still flickered like faded embers at the back of her mind. Would her artistic voice get drowned out in the process? As she experimented and played with colors, she confronted an internal dilemma. Could she respect another's vision while ensuring her authenticity was preserved? As Samantha immersed herself in the evolution of her sketches, something within her began to shift. There was potency in collaboration. It mirrored what she had felt standing before Jenna. The realization crashed over her that sharing the artistic journey could amplify her voice rather than mute it. Drawing from Jenna's perspective could spark unexpected avenues she'd never considered before. She could explore new emotional landscapes. With renewed determination, she drafted a message to Jenna, a proposal brimming with tentative excitement and a hint of vulnerability. Let us infuse our concepts, combining chaos and order in a way neither of us can fully predict. Each word felt like a declaration of independence and interdependence. Would Jenna resonate with her vision? Samantha leaned back, absorbing the moment, a delicate balance of hope and trepidation, wondering how Jenna would respond. Perhaps this was the leap of faith she needed to take, one that could redefine her understanding of personal expression. Days passed, each hour a spiraling mix of creativity and anxiety. She experimented relentlessly, layering colors, brushing details upon details. The canvases became an evolving testament to her journey, chaotic yet vibrantly alive. They felt like a metaphor for her own growth, messy but beautiful. Finally, a response from Jenna appeared in her inbox, punctuating the thick anticipation hanging between them. Underneath the anxiety, anticipation bubbled forth. She clicked open the email, curiosity dancing in her chest. The sound of her heartbeat echoed in her ears as she started reading Jenna's words. What awaited her in that message could either shatter her burgeoning confidence or launch her into exciting new dimensions of both her art and self. Had she truly grasped the essence of collaboration, or had she underestimated the journey ahead? As she sat surrounded by the scattered remnants of her work, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that Jenna's response would be pivotal. There, among the chaos of her studio, uncertainty loomed large once more. What path would emerge from this confluence of artistic spirits? Samantha's fingers trembled as she read Jenna's response, the words weaving through her consciousness like a thread, pulling her toward unknown possibilities. I love your idea. Let us meet to discuss how we can intertwine our visions. I'm thinking we can start with an exploration of our individual styles and see where the synergy leads us. With that email, a surge of exhilaration coursed through her veins. Jenna encouraged her to meld their artistic paths into something new, promising a collaborative voyage that promised to reshape both their works. A willingness to share her space, not just physically but creatively, pushed Samantha to confront the nagging apprehensions lurking in the corners of her mind. The days passed like a whirlwind. Excitement over this partnership propelled her into a new rhythm in her studio. Each canvas felt alive with potential, and as more ideas proliferated, her fears began to recede like ocean foam washing back into the tide. Yet doubts were not entirely quelled. They manifested as shadows lingering just out of sight. On the day of their meeting, the weight of each moment felt monumental. Standing in front of her mirror, Samantha made a point of examining her reflection. She saw someone who was attempting to reclaim her narrative. With every wavering breath, she whispered to herself an unyielding mantra. I am enough. Her heart raced not from fear but from the thrill of possibility. The cafe that served as their meeting point buzzed with energy when she arrived, Jenna already seated at a small table adorned with vibrant flowers. The air hummed with conversation and the aroma of fresh coffee, enveloping her in a cocoon of creativity. Samantha took a deep breath and approached, heart clamoring for both validation and understanding. Hi. I'm so glad you could make it, Jenna beamed, her enthusiasm electric. They exchanged easy pleasantries, yet an undertone of intensity permeated the air. Each artist knew they were standing on the threshold of something transformative. As they discussed ideas, Samantha found herself leaning into the dialogue, the interplay of thoughts igniting her own convictions. Jenna's perspectives were invigorating. Every suggestion rekindled the fire burning somewhere deep within Samantha's heart. As they brainstormed, Samantha articulated her vision, how she desired to weave her chaotic brushstrokes with Jenna's precise patterns, forming a narrative together. Yet as the brainstorming unfolded, an unsettling thought began to germinate. Was she merely conforming to Jenna's artistic vision, allowing it to overshadow her own? The fear of losing herself in this collaboration clawed at her insides. Let us not forget the element of chaos, Samantha asserted, almost as if daring Jenna to challenge her. I want to embody the struggle of creation, the raw emotional weight. If we blend our styles, we can emphasize that tension. Jenna's eyes sparked with understanding. Exactly. I think chaos is vital. It can reflect internal conflicts, and through that, we can find something genuinely groundbreaking. A soft smile from Jenna washed over Samantha's doubts momentarily, world weariness fading. Yet, the depth of vulnerability she felt in asserting her artistic needs weighed heavily on her mind as they left the cafe. An unspoken pact hung between them, a commitment to navigate the nuanced landscape of their collaboration, while fostering individual authenticity. Samantha felt both anticipation and anxiety surge through her with every step back to her studio. Once inside her sanctuary, She faced a blank canvas, a tangible representation of her journey ahead. Tension coiled in her stomach, a reminder that they were embarking on a venture that could transform not only their art, but also their individual identities. In a rush of adrenaline, she committed to mark the canvas with wild strokes, abstract and free, laying down a foundation that resonated with the chaos she yearned to express. Yet underneath, an undercurrent of hesitation brewed. Was she prepared to embrace this new collaboration fully without losing herself? As the colors bled together, Samantha knew she stood at a vital crossroads. With each stroke, the layers expressed not only her creative impulses, but her internal struggles as well. The artistry was alive, yet within her the question bubbled. Would this collaboration both challenge and empower her? Or would it expose her vulnerabilities in a way that derailed her journey? She examined her work, anxiety tinged with fervor. The canvas had become a visual metaphor for her battle. How much of herself would she be willing to risk? As she contemplated the next steps, she recognized that the only way forward was through. Could she maneuver through the intricate layers of collaboration while holding her truth close? Or would her voice dissipate among the swirling colors? The weight of that possibility pressed down on her, leaving her heart racing as she prepared for what lay ahead. There, in the ambience of her transformed studio, Samantha felt both precariously afloat and carefully poised on the edge of revelation, realizing that every stroke she took brought her closer to discovering her very essence amid the entwining paths she dared to forge. What awaited her in this odyssey of collaboration was yet to unfold. Yet she sensed the tides of change stirring a potent mixture of power and uncertainty, echoing the unresolved journeys of every artist. The vibrant buzz of anticipation filled the exhibition hall as Samantha stood before her installation, a culmination of her transformation. The unveiling day was finally here, a moment she had envisioned 1,000 times. Yet nothing could prepare her for the reality of it. Gone were the days of uncertainty. As she glanced over the expansive canvas now brimming with colors and shapes, intricate patterns danced before her eyes, a testament to the brave journey she had undertaken. Each stroke represented layers of her personal evolution, embracing her imperfections and vulnerabilities, woven into a narrative of resilience. Not merely an architectural project, this installation became an exploration of identity and connection. The audience began to wander through the space, absorbing the vibrancy of her work. Samantha felt vibrations of curiosity, a response to the stories embedded in her art. She anticipated the mingling of emotions, an urgent yearning to connect her past and future through the interactive elements that engaged those who dared to step closer. As she watched their reactions unfold, smiles, contemplative frowns, moments of connection, waves of pride surged through her. "I never expected art could resonate like this," one visitor admitted, her eyes alight with recognition. Samantha's heart fluttered. This singular moment crystallized her mission: to evoke reflections, inspire dialogue, and encourage vulnerability. Her narrative was no longer confined to her intrepid journey, but had transformed into a shared experience. Later in the day, Jenna arrived, her presence commanding attention. They exchanged smiles, a silent acknowledgement of all they had navigated together. Jenna approached, her gaze fixed on the piece that embodied not only Samantha's vision, but also Jenna's guidance. "You've captured chaos beautifully. It's raw yet meticulously structured," she said candidly, further validating the hard work behind Samantha's display. Each word from Jenna reinforced the weight of Samantha's accomplishments and checked the remnants of doubt still lurking in the shadows of her mind as guests continued to filter in. Samantha knew she had truly stepped into the spotlight, and jarred reality cleaned the slate of her self-perceptions. Just as she dedicated herself to re-envisioning the installation, she had also redefined her identity: an artist, yes, but more importantly, a seeker of authenticity, connection, and empowerment. Her past entanglements lost their potency. They provided context, but no longer dictated her narrative. Conversations unfolded around her as people shared their interpretations, weaving their journeys into the fabric of her creation. Each dialogue created an intricate tapestry, one that reflected her desire for interconnectedness, personal expression, and communal lifting. They saw the chaos and the beauty that Samantha had long struggled to articulate, and her work resonated with their own realities. The culmination of that artistic celebration became more than just a professional recognition of her talent. It was a profound personal success. Samantha had transformed from an architect who grappled with self-doubt into a confident creator who embraced vulnerability and connection through her art. After the last guests departed and the lights dimmed, she stood alone amid her installations, feeling the warm embrace of satisfaction wash over her like a soft glow. She had not only unveiled her work, she had unveiled herself. With this bold leap, she had reclaimed her narrative. Jenna's parting words echoed in her mind. Push yourself further than you thought possible. Samantha smiled. The notion of extending her newfound confidence filled her with excitement. She was ready to explore deeper collaboration, to engage more intensely with the world outside her studio. As the night deepened, Samantha reflected on her month in Paris, the chaos, the isolation, the eventual spark of growth. What began as a time of despair had transformed into an extraordinary adventure of self-discovery, electrifying ambition, and a sense of belonging within her own skin. She had conquered the disconnected fragments of herself and woven them together into a cohesive narrative. With renewed purpose, she resolved to continue this exploration, to transform doubt into creative expression. Nimble and confident, she would embrace her place in the artistic world, honoring the journey that had birthed her current self. This was just the beginning. Now take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your insights are valuable. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Support the channel and help spread these powerful narratives of personal overcoming.